I literally died on the operating table. I didn't know I was stupid. They are scared. They're terrified. What you see when they bark at us like that is little Chihuahua. Backed into a corner, trying to keep the scary shit at bay.
Your trauma is not an excuse to create more trauma.
I am in no way healed. I will carry my treason with me for the rest of my life.
So we have a little bit of a different episode for you guys today. I brought with me a special guest, Beckie Eckhart, who you will get to know very shortly. Beckie is somebody that I just interacted with on Threads. That's where most of my truly unhinged behavior takes place. And I think just was part of this kind of community, quirky, silly group that we have built. Always has good things to say, always has smart things to say, has a depth of understanding of neurodivergent brains that I've always very much appreciated. But in one of our very regular conversations, probably about how Donald Trump is an idiot or RFK is the worst thing to happen to healthcare since healthcare, she happened to mention in passing, burying the lead, I guess, but she happened to mention in passing that she comes from the MAGA world. As soon as she said it, I was like, oh, we're going to talk about this because I needed to hear more about it. I needed to know what it was like inside. I needed to know really what we were up against here, because as much as I have very, very strong caricatures of what I feel like the soul of MAGA is, but I certainly don't know it from a human perspective because I have nothing to attach myself to there. But yeah, it felt really important to me that we have this conversation and get into the nitty gritty of like how people end up there and end up so disconnected from what I think is a very clear reality. So that's our plan for today. So we have Beckie here. And thank you so much for joining us today and for being so willing and open to talk about what is probably not a fun topic and also not a fun period of your life. But I so appreciate you being here. So just to start, I would love to know a little bit about maybe your background before all of that, if there was a before, leading into how you found yourself in the middle of something. And then eventually we'll get into what it looked like to realize that you had to get out.
My before is truly the meat and potatoes, because this is what Steve Bannon built it off of. So I was raised by someone who looks, sounds, acts like Donald Trump. I was raised even in evangelicalism as a Jehovah's Witness. I left, but I never deconstructed. So I went through life a pretty traumatized person, but doing her best. I had no idea that I had conditioning or, that some things we just do on autopilot because we were trained as children. And in 2015, my life hit the skids in probably the worst way. I literally died on the operating table. My youngest and our life that I started from here at poverty, and we lost everything. And that's where the story begins. A very broken person.
So I want to touch on something that you said that I think is really interesting. So you were no longer a Jehovah's Witness, but you said you didn't decondition from that. What does that mean?
Deconstruction is when you look at the religious beliefs you were trained as a child. And not everybody was, but a lot of Americans are. A large majority of our generation, older generations, are 100% conditioned to believe that the Bible is historical fact. We know that that's not true. And again, this is from my learning. As you go through that, and as we know, the Christian Bible is a very violent book. Horrible things. First, God loves you, but he's also starving you. Like that constant dichotomy of abuse, which is what you see in a narcissistic abuse cycle. That constant, I love you, but you hurt me. In that trains us, especially those that look like this, to fit in a certain box. The confines of that you don't realize unless you are exposed to a wider world, typically through college. You live under a rock and you don't know as much as you think you do. You are living the world through tunnel vision of that grooming because you have to now go back and tell your brain these are not appropriate things. This is abuse. You're not supposed to have two opposing thoughts in your brain at the same time and both of them being true, of understanding that that book, while some people, your spirituality is wonderful and a personal thing, and some people can find hope in there, not taking it literally. And unless you do that, you see the entire world through the lens of God, of Sky Daddy, of even when you try to fight it, because I thought I was a progressive before MAGA. You know, I believed in equal rights. I loved but I didn't know all those little microaggressions and the racism and the bigotry that is all taught to these tiny little brains. And we don't even understand that it's in there. And so without removing that, when my mental health failed in 2015, my logic went with it. When you drop your basket, your logic goes too. I fell back on that indoctrination, on that grooming. And that grooming, that indoctrination, that belief, mainly evangelicals, it roped in Catholics and all other, but mainly evangelicals, were the dog whistles Steve Bannon used to create MAGA. And I didn't know they were dog whistles. I didn't know I was stupid.
Can you give me an example of one of those dog whistles?
God, I hate using this stuff now. For your audience, please understand that I do not believe, feel, think. I'm okay. I just don't want to hurt anybody else.
Understood.
We'll use immigration for an example. I speak Spanish. I help someone become a citizen. I don't hate anyone. But inside of me was a bigotry that I didn't know. I bought into the American exceptionalism propaganda. And that, you know, you got to come here legally. And that this whole immigration thing, when people tell you, like when we argue with MAGA online and they tell you I'm not like that, and we tell them, yeah, you are, they don't know it. They can't see it. They don't understand it. And I say that as someone who didn't understand when it was said to me. But now looking back with clarity, assistance, and mental help, the blessing of hindsight, I can look at myself, remember how I felt and thought in those moments, and I can see it. They are ultimately, and I know this shocks the hell out of everybody when I say it, but this is the truth. They are scared. They're terrified. 100% terrified. What you see when they bark at us like that is a little chihuahua backed into a corner trying to keep the scary shit at bay.
So using immigration as the example, and you know how I feel about immigration. We've talked about this many times. When you're saying that they create these narratives, is the narrative, it sounds to me like what you're saying is the narrative is not that people shouldn't come here. It's that you should always come here legally, that there are ways to come here legally, and anybody who doesn't come here legally is a criminal. And they leave out the realities of coming here legally, the difficulties of it, the realities of what people are leaving, the realities of the very legal asylum system. They ignore all of that and think that they are being altruistic while also being patriotic by saying you're welcome here if you do it the right way.
Yep. 100%. All that cognitive dissonance going on up here. And for me, like, I knew the Constitution. Somehow I forgot it. Somehow I forgot what liberty looked like. Somehow, because once the hooks are in, there's no logic coming back. You are now controlled. They've got you. You're afraid. You're a part of the system. And it's just That's what it is, because their brains are stuck in this constant cycle of defending what they're supporting, defending what they're believing, or what, you know what I mean? They have to do that because the pain is so intense. I could just be sitting still, and the amount of strain and stress on my body back then, I could just be sitting here like this. Impossible. Just a ball of nerves. And they'll lie to your face and say it's not that, but it is. There are Nazis. Don't get me fucking wrong. There are Nazis in MAGA. There are also people, as ignorant as they are victims. Victims of a country that allowed this to happen, victims of religion that did this to them, victims of a society that didn't grow. And if nobody tells you this little world that you're in is not the whole world, how are you going to know? That's another large part of MAGA. The largest part of MAGA is people like me. They don't know.
You say that they're scared and that you were scared. Can you explain to me what they're scared of?
Sure. Couple things. Let me give you my example. Before 2015 and after 2015, in that time, not once, but twice, the legal system that I had full faith in failed me. And not just failed me, but catastrophically, corruptly failed me. And one of those failures involved my children. My children were taken from me at spite. I was holding my ground for my son, who is autistic, and then like that. That was during the time that my mental health was failing and my executive functioning was failing, and everything around me, including my marriage, was crashing down around me. And I did everything that God told me to do. I did it all. I did everything that society, that school, that everybody around me told me to do. And my entire world comes crashing down. And without anyone to reach out a hand and say, hey, Beck, you got some stuff going on. Postpartum too. Without that hand to say, you aren't seeing the world clearly. You don't know you aren't seeing the world clearly. And it carries you away, because we can admit, as white women, having community in this country is not really something that we have. We're very isolated from each other by design. And MAGA was the first time I had a community. And so these people that I love, they're all doing it too. And so it becomes easier and easier to make mental compromises, small ones. I could give just a little bit here. It doesn't hurt there until those little compromises become massive ones. And before you know it, you are in a cult. You all think the same way, talk the same way. And if you dare step out of line, because I had moments of lucidity, if you dare step out of line, it's more vicious than what happened to Danny Kaye. I'll just put it that way. They literally will just beat you down, no matter how much proof you have, no matter how much logic you have. It is to keep you controlled. The best way that I can describe it is literally concentrated white supremacy with religion, because that's the part too. Because now that the religion is so deeply in it, now these people, they can't separate the God King from God. They can't separate these things now. And so if they betray him because he's betraying us, they're betraying God. Our mental health professionals, not you. There's a lot of folks who have a lot of things to say on a lot of podcasts about how bad MAGA is. And these are people who hold credentials. They are practicing mental health professionals. They know what has happened. They know what this is. And all they do is criticize. And I'm sorry, I just needed to say this.
I mean, I criticize a lot, and I could probably very much be considered in that boat. I struggle a lot with the idea, and I think you have given a whole lot of insight into how this happens. I don't know if I think it gives me more compassion and understanding. I don't know that it makes me less critical. We say this a lot. Your trauma is not an excuse to create more trauma. And so it's giving this huge pile of understanding, which is what we're aiming to do here. I mean, that's the point. We're giving this huge pile of understanding to people who are still abjectly causing harm. That's kind of a strange place of cognitive dissonance to be in. I want to talk a little bit about what the inflection point was, if there was one, where you started going, oh, maybe this isn't right.
It was a slow burn. I do want to say that at no point did I ever think he was infallible. I was never that far gone. There are plenty of other MAGA that you will talk to who won't come out and call him out, but will say he's not perfect. I think that it was a slow burn, and it was me, because during that time I was in dorsal vagal shutdown. As I was waking up, I was in dorsal vagal shutdown. As I was pulling out of that, I started realizing, wait, Beckie, you're missing pieces here. Why can't you think critically? I was realizing that I was missing core parts of who I am, core parts of my brain, of my cognitive ability. I say I was in MAGA for 4 years, but not really. I voted for the idiot twice. The November 7th, I regretted my vote. I just couldn't say it. I wasn't there mentally yet, but I knew that this was wrong. At first, when I'm talking to everyone else, when Jan 6 happened, because I can't verbalize anything else. So I tried to soothe myself as best I could. And here's the big part that everybody kind of misses. That echo chamber is complete. It's complete. When I tell you I did not see what they did to that Capitol building, I didn't see it. What I saw was a little bit of shoving.
When you say you didn't see it,
it wasn't in our feed. It wasn't
in your news sources.
Yeah. You know, because sometimes we show them evidence and they're like, ugh. But this was, I didn't even see it. The first time I saw a police officer being crushed under the weight of insurrectionists screaming was 2023. That was the first time. I can't tell you what it's like to live with that type of shame, because it's still there. You know, I get mouthy and silly and all that on Threads, but I want everyone to know I am in no way healed. I will carry my treason with me for the rest of my life. And that is something I accept. It doesn't matter why. I did it. And my mental health demands accountability.
I want to go back to this. So, January 6th, your perception of what that was, what was your genuine belief about what happened there?
At first, my genuine belief was that they marched down to the Capitol building to demand accountability from Republicans. That was the narrative spun. Yeah, I saw your eyes. That was the narrative spun. So my response, when we're seeing fucking Josh Hawley running through the hallway, bro, what are you doing? Go talk to them. Do you know what I mean? Or Mark Wayne, like, get out. What are you hiding for? Go talk to them. These are your people. So it was easy just to convince myself that both sides are the same when I saw that. Do you know what I mean? The cognitive dissonance, convincing yourself of that's what it is as opposed to what it actually is. And because the echo chamber is so tight, so complete, I'm going to say this. Steve Bannon is an absolute degenerate. I don't consider him a human being. I don't value him in any way, but he's not stupid. He knew what he was doing.
What do you think he was doing? Clarify that for me.
He admits it. There is interviews with Steve admitting he was creating a cult. He was doing exactly what happened. You know, I'm not a psychiatrist, but sounds an awful lot like Machiavellianism to me. He is not stupid. The disgusting outer appearance is all to disarm us. He is a very shrewd, manipulative, evil son of a bitch. The fact that so many people saw this, the fact that our government did not stop the media, did not get involved, because there is a difference between freedom of speech and lying and spreading propaganda to an entire nation of mentally unwell people who don't know they're mentally unwell. I have a lot of blame to spread. I take mine, but I got a lot of blame to spread. And the Nazis know what they're doing. Everybody else who isn't, who isn't sporting the Nazi bullshit, is quite literally out of their fucking mind and don't know it. They're literally a threat to society.
So knowing that you had your awakening, first off, you went on a different path. What did that cost you?
Everything. Everything. To give you an idea of how far I had fallen and how close to rock bottom I came, because I had to figure this out on my own. I didn't have anybody else. So now my husband's there, but at first, my marriage, my children's mental health, my relationship with my children, their father's relationship with them, our family, our life. There was a time when two of my two youngest children and I were living in an extended stay. I was homeless, lived in a campground. Because there was no help. There was nobody for me to go to. There were no services. There was nothing. You're poor. Deal with it, bitch. Well, I fucking dealt with it. Here's the story that needs to be told. Here's the story that needs to be told. I have a trans son. And from the time he was very, very little, he had a lot of sensory issues. And I didn't understand what it was. And the other adults around me, professionals, doctors, weren't cluing in because I didn't understand that. You know, there was no therapy. There was no gender exploration, none of that. And it took my son self-harming and hospitalization for us to figure it out. And I'm sorry, but when it comes to this country or religion or anything else, fuck you, my kid comes first. And that's the end of the fucking story. And so first accepting your child is trans, nothing else fucking matters. That's the first part, at least for me. And no, I was in MAGA when my kid was trans. They were still trans. They just didn't know. My child suffered because I didn't educate myself. on what child development looks like. I just did what everybody else did. It is an education thing. It is a societal thing. We allowed a group of people to infiltrate our legislation based on their religion. And that has been in the works for 50 years.
Did your life change when you had your awakening and realized you weren't part of this? And how did it change?
Well, I got myself out of homelessness. My husband and I started the actual healing process and removing the pieces of me that caused me to behave in ways that were not appropriate, healthy, or authentic. I had to give myself empathy that I was not all the things that everybody said I was, that I was a human being who unfortunately had parents who were not ready to be parents and probably never should have had children. As that process happened and as I worked through that, this person appeared, who's me. It's like I went to sleep in my 30s and I woke up middle-aged. My life is so much happier. I'm still broke. I'm broke as fuck. Executive functioning for me is, I got bad days more than I got good days. But my husband and I are both doing the work and we saved our marriage. My son, Toby, is thriving. My youngest, absolutely thriving. My oldest, a little trickier. That's a 17-year-old boy. But from where we were when I started the process and started waking up, which was basically a filthy house, absolute chaos, broke as fuck, not a family, to where we are now, remembering that we're a family and it's a totally different change. And most of MAGA is, not most, all of MAGA is just as miserable. It doesn't matter if they have the pretty white veneer, they are still miserable. It's all an act. Because at the end of the day, you cannot be happy tearing down other people or worrying about what other people are doing with their life. Life is too difficult, too stressful to worry about your own shit and people who are just living their lives. My mother, I hate calling her that. God damn it, it slipped out. Everything. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter what friend I had, who it was. Oh, where's your parents work? What do they do? Like, shut up. Just let people live. So it's not just they're worried about what it's in other people's pants, or they're worried about what it's everybody's lives because they have no life. That's literally it. They have nothing to look forward to. There's no hope. There's no joy. It's literally living to be cruel.
So, with your kind of deep understanding of who you were and who you are now and the transitions that you made and how it was a slow burn, are you hopeful for the people who are still there?
Yeah.
How so?
I wake people up every day. You gotta just get them out of that state. You gotta get them out of that fear. You have to let them understand that you are not their enemy and that we just disagree on some things. But there's things that we absolutely do agree on. And you're just real confused about what that looks like right now. You'll see me, because I've known you see me interact. Sometimes I'm just pushing them back under the rock where they belong. And sometimes I'm fishing. I'm trying to figure out, is there something there that I can latch onto? Or is all logic gone? And so what I will tell you is there are signs that someone is still there. We just got to help them come out. They typically aren't the most aggressive. They might come at you aggressive, but then they die down a little bit. I know you see it all the time where they come at you sideways and you're talking to them and they just a little bit, but when you get too close to the truth, that reflex, them. Those are the people. And for those people, you only need one thing: the de escalation customer service skill set. That's it. That's literally all you need. If you know how to keep a Karen from losing her shit, you can deal with MAGA. And it's hard because it's our personal life. So, a lot of us, when we leave work, we unplug, we don't think about it. It is literally that skill set. For the religious nuts, I don't know what we do about that. I know where I stand when it comes to religion. If your religion teaches you to exclude other people, it has no place in a free society. And I will die on that hill. It's so hard when we are taking that constant bombardment from them to engage our empathy and humanity and remember that that person is actually just throwing their pain at you. And I'm not dismissing anybody, but Jesus Christ, I need help. I'm exhausted because I do this every day with them. And I'm sure you can imagine dealing with MAGA on a daily basis and arguing with them and reasoning with them and having to constantly go back and go back and go back. It's exhausting. I 100% believe, because this is about hope and my hope from the people still in there. I 100% believe that if we move as one, if we work together, a group of us at first, resisting the flood from the other, I truly believe we can wake large groups of these people up. Many have. And the goal is not to fix their mental health, because that's for somebody else. The goal is not to make sure they know they're wrong. The goal is to get them engaged again and remember they're Americans and remember what that means and remember that Americans put country before party.
So I just have one more question, and it's my biggest issue with people who I feel like are kind of coming back with their mea culpas now.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have known. I didn't know. I'm sorry. Or how was I supposed to know? That's my favorite one. How was I supposed to know he was going to do exactly what he said he was going to do? Is that, does change matter when you're only changing because it's finally hurting you?
So here's my take on like leaving MAGA and other people. I'm glad you woke up. Pick up a hammer and get to work. We're not going to hang out. We're not buddies. I need you to show me that you understand the problems with your behavior. I will absolutely help you in an argument online to deal with somebody. I will absolutely help you march. I will help whatever you need to, if we are moving together as one for America. But until you do that work, until you deal with your ego, until you take accountability personally, because it doesn't matter what we say to other people. If it isn't in here, it doesn't matter. So until you do that, well, you're going to be lonely for a little bit. And it stinks. And I was really fucking lonely. And I learned. And I watched people with good behavior. And slowly memories unlocked. And slowly I remembered who I was as I'm pulling this stuff apart and doing this work. It's not about perfection. It's about action. And you may be sorry. And that very well could be true. And it doesn't matter if the initial reason was sorry, was self-serving. That's fine. Are you coming around? Are you doing the work? Because to be quite honest, for MAGA to get through this, like the ones who are leaving MAGA, they're going to have to do, the shadow work. They're going to have to dig down deep because we are in an active abuse cycle. And So they're going to suffer the same level of abuse. So they're going to have to. I think as a community, as a society, we need to figure out how to put together something because our government's absolutely useless. I don't trust any state government. I don't trust anybody in the government right now because, as far as I'm concerned, they're all to blame. What we've been doing isn't working. America's broken. Her back has been broke. I want the America I was promised. That's what I want. I want everyone to be safe. I want everyone to be okay. The time for memeing is over. This is all hands on deck, 5-alarm fire. And we're starting to see some improvement in Congress with how they're handling things. They're starting to get more aggressive, but it is really everybody's problem. We're all human. We're all American. And that our goal is for everyone to be safe and happy and move in love. That doesn't mean don't scalp Nazis, but it means trying to find ways. Hold those accountable that need to be held accountable. I'm going to share this personal thing to let you know what level of broken. I never had a single soul love me until I got married in 2004. Not a parent. I was the broken little one-eyed girl that was just a problem for everybody. And I didn't heal that properly. And that led to many, 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 many problems. We need to care for our mental health. We need to address these issues. I just think we need to stop worrying about me and start worrying about we.
Beckie, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and so honest and being here and being so willing to share so much of your history and so much that I know you're still healing through. I think you are actually going to change some minds and I think soften some hearts on both sides now that I think about it. But I had no idea how this was going to go. I had no idea what we were getting into, but it went better than I ever could imagine. So Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Have a good day, guys. Love you. Mean it.